Right. I'm going to turn this off. Okay, so we're going to be doing Unit 7 today, but I want to show you where the materials are. So even though this says second period math, um, first period has the same materials. So if you click on Unit 7 materials, you are going to have 4 different things. This is the link to the website, and you can click on Lesson 1, and then you can follow along here and write your answers on paper if you want. Otherwise, you can click on the student task statements, and you can look at this. This is the worksheet. Now you can print these out if you want, but that's a lot of printing. There's like 96 pages. So I don't really recommend that you do that. I did it because I'm the teacher. If you want to, you can. It's up to you and your parents. So get permission first before you do that. And then there's also practice pages. Those are in here. And you could scroll down and get the one you need. There's lesson 2. This is lesson 1. And then you could just write your answers on paper. And then see if you get them right the next day. And then there's cool downs. And that's about that. So, but you also have all that, everything that's on the paper is on here on this website. All right, so I'm going to use this, and I'm going to toggle back and forth between that and the pages that I printed out. So you need to decide how you want to do it, if you want to print it out or if you want to just follow along and write down on paper. All right, so we're going to start. Lesson 1 is about positive and negative numbers. And you need to know what 0, positive numbers, negative numbers mean in the context of temperature and elevation. Next, I can use positive and negative numbers to describe temperature and elevation. And I know what positive and negative numbers are. So the first thing we're looking at is the I notice, I wonder. It's just a warm-up. And in the first screen, you see Memphis, Tennessee, Saturday at 5 p.m., light rain showers, and 37 degrees F, which means Fahrenheit, and then 3 degrees Celsius. And then Bangor, Maine, Saturday, 6 p.m., partly cloudy. You have 1 degree Fahrenheit and negative 17 degrees Celsius. So what do you notice? What do you wonder? I know you can't answer me on that. You might notice that there are 2 temperatures for each city. The temperatures have different letters. The times are different. There's a minus sign in one of the temperatures. And you may wonder what the 2 temperatures mean. Why is it snowing in the colder city? Why isn't it snowing in the colder city? Or what the minus sign is doing there. What does that mean? Hopefully some of you have been exposed to negative numbers already. So hopefully this won't be too difficult. All right, so if we scroll down a little bit, and we're looking at 1.2, above and below 0, the thermometer showed a temperature of 7 degrees Celsius one morning. Later, the temperature increased 4 degrees. We can represent this change in temperature using a number line, as shown here. So notice that the number line is a vertical number line because we're talking about temperature. So if you had there are 3 situations involving changes in temperature. So what would it be, though, before we move on? If it's 7 degrees Celsius one morning and later it increases 4 degrees, it's going up, so it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. It would be 11 degrees, right? So in the situation below, it says here are 3 situations involving temperature change. Represent each change on the applet and draw it on the number line and then answer the question. So at noon, the temperature was 5 degrees. By late afternoon, it had risen 6 degrees Celsius. What was the temperature in the late afternoon? So they have this little, what they call an applet here. So if the temperature was 5, you can put a 5 in there, and it increased and by 6. And hit return, and you see that it's gone up to 11. So on your paper for number 1A, what was the temperature in the late afternoon? It would be 11, and I'm going to toggle over so you can see what I'm doing. So right here, oops, I was writing the wrong. Okay, so at noon the temperature was 5 degrees Celsius. By late afternoon it had risen 6. What is the temperature in the late afternoon? It would be 11 degrees Celsius. Okay, let's go back. And we have the next one. Oops, says the temperature was 8 degrees Celsius by midnight. By dawn, it had dropped 12 degrees. What was the temperature at dawn? So if it's starting at 8, and then we have to go, remember, we're not using increase, we're using decrease. So it dropped 12 degrees. I'm going to type that in there, or you can use this to go up and down. So we want 12, and it decreased 12, so now it's at -4. So if you're looking at the number line, and you count down 12 from 8, it's for 8 to get to 0, and then another 4 to get to, for a total of 12. So you're at -4. So B is -4 degrees Celsius. And the next one. Okay, so it says water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, but the freezing temperature can be lowered by adding salt to the water. The student discovered that adding half a cup of salt to a gallon of water lowers its freezing temperature by 7 degrees Celsius. What is the freezing temperature of the gallon of salt water? All right, so I'm actually going to go to my page here. All right, so we're going to show that on the number lines. We could have used these for the first two. So if we're numbering these, this is 0, so this 1, 2, 3, 4 going up, and -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7. This is for problem C. So what water freezes at 0 degrees, but if you add salt to it, it'll adding salt, half a cup of salt to a gallon of water lowers its freezing temperature by 7 degrees Celsius. So if it normally freezes at 7, and so now we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oops. Yeah, 7. So its new freezing temperature would be 7 degrees Celsius. Okay, so just so we can see this um, on the number line, problem A was 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it went up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So increase is up and decrease is down. And for B, it said it was at 8 degrees, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it went down 12 degrees. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we have to count what these are. That's what's -1, -2, -3, -4. So we end up from 8 to -4. That's 12 spaces. Okay. All right, so now we're moving on to high places, low places. And there's a table that shows the elevations of various cities. So elevation is how high the mountains go. So if you're 0 is at sea level, anything below sea level would be negative, anything above sea level would be positive. All right, so they're going to ask us some questions here based on the chart. So I have the same chart here. So on the list of cities, which has the second highest sea level, second highest elevation. So remember that's going to be a positive number. So the second highest would be Bethel. Indiana. Okay, and then B, how would you describe the elevation of Coachella, California in relation to sea level? So -22. Coachella, it is 22 feet below sea level. And you don't need to say negative here because you're already saying below. Okay, and then C, how would you describe the elevation of Death Valley in California in relation to sea level? So Death Valley is -282. So it's 282 feet below sea level. That doesn't mean it's under the water. It just means the where the land is lower than where the oceans are. They're not in the same place. Okay. Okay, so D, if you are standing on a beach right next to the ocean, what is your elevation? So we just talked about that. So 0 is sea level. So my elevation would be 0. All right, E. How would you describe the elevation of Miami, Florida? Well, it is at sea level. All right, and then F. F says a city has a higher elevation than Coachella, California. Select all numbers that could represent the city's elevation. So Coachella is negative 22. You're going to select anything that is higher than negative 22. So A is higher than, well, it doesn't have an A, but negative 35 is not, because it's lower. 4 feet would be higher than negative 22. So we're thinking about that number line. What is above and what is below? 4 feet is higher because it's a positive number. Negative 22 versus negative 8. Negative 8 is higher. And 0 would also be higher. So the only one that's lower is negative 35. All right, let's move on to the next section. And I want to show you the screen again. Let's go back here. So number 2, here are 2 tables that show the elevation of highest points on land and lowest points in the ocean. Distances are measured from sea level. Drag the points marking the mountains and trenches to the vertical number line and answer the question. So I need to be able to see both at the same time. So which point in the ocean is the lowest in the world, and what is its elevation? So if we're looking at this chart, it looks like negative 11,033 point F is the lowest elevation, which is the Mariana Trench. So on your paper, see, this is the lowest out of all of them. So which point is the Mariana Trench? And that is negative 11,033 meters below sea level. So if you're doing that on here, I'm not really sure how to use that outlet. Okay, so it's saying it's up here. Eight, not yet. Reset. So listen, it says drag the points marking the mountains and trenches to the vertical number line and answer the question. Oh, okay. So I'm trying to drag this to here. Oh, no, I'm not, because it's negative. Oopsies. Okay. Not what? I don't know how to use this. Okay, so I know my answer's right. If you guys can figure that out, you can let me know. Let's look at B. Which mountain is the highest in the world, and what is its elevation? All right, so these are the negatives down here. These are the positives up here. So we're going to say, oh, we've talked about that before in class, haven't we? So point C, Mount Everest. And it is 8,848 meters above sea level. All right, question C says, if you plot the elevations of the mountains and trenches on a vertical number line, what would 0 represent? What would points above 0 represent? And what about points below 0? So let's look at our paper here. So we know that 0, I'm going to do little bullet points here. 0 represents sea level. Points above 0 are above sea level, and points below 0 are below sea level. All right, and we have one more question about that on the next page. Okay, and based on the chart, it's asking which is farther from sea level, the deepest point in the ocean or the top of the highest mountain. So the Mariana Trench was negative 11,033, and Mount Everest was 8,848. So the answer to that would be the deepest point in the ocean, right? Because it's further down. So the deepest point in the ocean because it's farther from 0. Okay, so that's the end of this unit. I know here's the Are You Ready for More? I know some of you like it, some of you don't. I'm going to put it in Seesaw for you to see. Saw. Just kidding. That's a bad joke. Okay, so I totally miss you guys, and I love you, and I want you to do the practice problems, and then I will go over them with you tomorrow. Okay? All right. Have a good day.